Ladies and gentlemen, we're pleased to have Scottie Scheffler back in the interview room today. Scottie, thank you for your time. You're 6 under 66 today. So far is the only completed round under bogey, or with no bogey free today. Would you please describe your level of confidence at Augusta National?
Well, it's always nice getting around here bogey free. I did a good job of staying patient today. We kept the golf course in front of us, and I executed some really nice up and downs to keep the round going. And yeah, I enjoy coming here and competing in this golf tournament. And the first day is over, and I'm off to a good start. And going into tonight, I'll just focus on going home, getting some rest. I may go hit a few balls, but outside of that, I'm going to go get some recovery in and some dinner, and then try to get some sleep.
Great, thank you. With that, we'll open it up to questions.
Sorry about that, Scottie. With not as much rain, I think, as expected, and the amount of wind you had today, were you at all surprised to see Bryson start out with a 7 and you come through with a 6 under? Did you see that kind of score out there?
When I was walking out to the first tee, I was fairly surprised with how many people were under par already. Going into today with the forecast the way it was supposed to be, and I've played this tournament once before in some pretty high winds, and it's an extremely challenging golf course. And yeah, I felt like today I just did a really good job of Teddy, I would say, did a really good job of kind of guessing the wind correctly, if that makes sense. And we stole a few shots on the par threes, I felt like, and then I played the par fives well.
Ryan?
Roy was just praising your efficiency on the golf course, and he said the secret to winning major championships is limiting the mistakes more than making a ton of birdies. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think in terms of these tournaments, I think limiting your mistakes, obviously a lot easier said than done, but limiting your mistakes is important. It's important to kind of keep that momentum of the round going, and I felt like today when I was in some challenging spots on some tough holes, I did a good job of pitching up there nice and close, and it was a pretty solid day.
Tom?
Yes, Scottie, Bryson posted his number 2 hours before you finished. What was it like trying to chase down a score like that when conditions were, if anything, getting worse?
Yeah, I wasn't really thinking too much about my score out there. It's the first day of the tournament. Like I said, I was just trying to hit good shots and stay patient out there. And you cannot force yourself into making birdies around this golf course. It just doesn't really lend itself to that, especially with the high winds. And so, I saw that he shot 7 under, and I thought to myself, "Wow, that's a really good round of golf." And then I kind of put my head back down and focused on what I was doing.
Kyle?
Yeah, you seem like you are very patient and disciplined in weeks like this. Is that something that has always been true of you, or have you gotten better at that over time? You mentioned when you were 15, your coach said, "I want you to be the best in the world when you're 25. I don't care if you're the best in the world when you're 15." Were you patient and disciplined then, or is it something that's gotten better?
I think it's definitely gotten better over time, certainly as I've matured as a person as well. Like I said on Tuesday this week, I typically expect a lot out of myself, and so when things aren't going the way that they're supposed to be, especially when I was younger, I would get pretty frustrated, and I try to manage myself a lot better than I did back then, and I'm seeing some good results of that. But days like today, it's very easy to say, "Hey, stay patient. Don't make too many mistakes out there," and all that stuff, yada yada. But really, all it comes down to is hitting really good shots and just really managing your way around the golf course, and it's, I think, a lot easier said than done for sure.
Krishna Swami?
Scottie, we always say that there's certain we always say that certain players, raise their game a notch or two when it comes to the majors. But you've been consistent. It's just everywhere, every tournament across 2 players and a whole bunch of top 20s, 25s in the majors. Would you still feel that in terms of winning majors, you've been a little, you haven't had as many majors in the last 3 years as you could or you should with so many good results?
So is the question, should I have more majors?
Yeah, you should have had.
Okay.
You came pretty close, yeah.
I've been asked a question like that before, and In my head, yeah, I should have won way more golf tournaments. Anytime I show up to the golf tournament, I'm hoping to try and win that golf tournament. And if you ask Tiger Woods, it's the same thing. He would say he hasn't won nearly as many golf tournaments as he should. I think that's part of what drives us as players is we want to compete, we want to win out here, and that's just part of it. Golf is not a very satisfying game, I would say. You win one week and then you show up the next week and you don't win, and it's like, well, that's it. The win's over. Now I finished second. It's too bad. So it's just one of those sports where it's just you're never really satisfied with the results.
You often look at your stats in terms of the way you've done in the majors over the last 13, 14 majors that you've played.
Sorry, say that again?
Stats, your figures. You've never finished out of top 25 in 13 of the 14 majors that you've played.
I've always liked playing, challenging golf courses, and the majors, I think, are the most difficult golf courses that we play outside of maybe a couple tour events. But for the most part, the majors are always very difficult challenges, and it always excites me. I like playing against the best players, and these tournaments, I think, excite me a little bit, and I try to use that energy for, some enhanced focus. And I think these are fun weeks to be out here playing.
Dan?
Scottie, yeah, just wondering, what's the update with your wife? And are you at all concerned that there's a scenario in which, you have to leave this tournament?
I mean, maybe I should be more concerned. I don't really know. People have asked us how our preparation is going for the baby, and it's like, well, I feel like we're a little bit underprepared. The nursery isn't quite ready, and, we had some issues at our house the last few weeks, but yeah, I think that's the exciting part. I think we're definitely very underprepared to be parents. And as far as her going into labor, I wouldn't say I'm very concerned. We haven't seen any of the early signs, but pregnancy is weird. It can happen at any time. But open lines of communication, and she can get a hold of me if she needs to. And I'm ready to go at a moment's notice.
Don?
Scottie, you've come into this tournament on a red-hot streak. I wonder just how much confidence that gives you and how that confidence manifests itself when you're out on the course in the first round and the conditions are difficult. Yeah,
I try to use it as good momentum. I mean, I've had some good results in the last month or so, and I'm trying to use that in a positive way. But it really, when you step up there on the first tee, I'm not thinking about last week. I'm not thinking about the week before that. I'm thinking about the shot I'm trying to hit, and that's pretty much it. But it's definitely nice in the preparation, knowing that my game's in a good spot. And I was just kind of excited to get the week started, and so far I'm off to a good start.
Paul?
Scottie, can you describe what went wrong on the second shot at 13, and how fortunate did you feel that the ball stayed dry?
I felt extremely fortunate that the ball stayed dry. Right at the top of my swing, I heard somebody else make contact with the ball, and it kind of jerked me a little bit, and that's why I lost out to the right. That stuff happens in the game of golf. I mean, things happen. You got to be more focused than that. And so when I hear something like that, it's not. That's not very typical of me. Usually I can kind of, I don't hear a lot of the other stuff that goes on. I'm usually very focused on what I'm doing. And so sometimes when you hear that, your brain, reacts to it. And so that's what happened there. And then, I was extremely fortunate that ball stayed up. I was already trying to figure out where the ball crossed to figure out where I was going to drop. Very, very grateful that it did. And was fortunate to take advantage of it with a birdie.
One quick follow-up. Was it beyond the creek or short of it?
It was on the other side of the creek. So on the pin side of the creek.
Brian?
Scottie, you talk about guessing the winds. Can you give us just an example of one of the shots or some of the shots you had to deal with and how it maybe changed or affected the shot in order to control it with these winds?
You want me to go through all the shots? Or No, I think when you kind of make the turn, like you get down there on number 10 and then number 10's a hole with the way the wind direction is today. It can be very challenging when you have all those trees blocking you, and then hit a nice shot in there. But we got up to number 11, and it was gusty all day today. And number 11's a 520-yard par 4, and it starts blowing like 35 miles an hour directly in our face. Just these big gusts. You could see the trees are blowing like crazy. And I tried to wait until it stopped, but it just never stopped. So I hit it, and then you're standing over there over an approach shot. I don't even remember what I had in, but I had a 4-iron in my hand, and I hit an incredibly good golf shot that still was short of the green. And then, you get to number 12, and that was another example of a shot that I hit exactly how I wanted to. We were trying to hit a 60 shot, and it was about 150 pin. And, on number 11, I probably got 35 yards of hurt on my 4-iron, and so playing for 10 on the next 8-iron is, not a crazy amount of wind to be playing for. And so it's just kind of one of those deals where you really are guessing sometimes. And I hit the shot exactly how I wanted to, and the wind stopped, and it airmailed the green. But I can kind of hand my club to Teddy and just be like, well, we do what we tried to do. I mean, you can't get every wind right. It's not possible. And so did a good job of kind of staying in the moment there, and then hit a great bunker shot after that.
Joy?
Scottie, everyone says the key to doing well at Augusta National is to play the par 5s well. You did that, but you also played the par 3s really well today. I mean, I think you have 3 birdies in the 4 par 3s. Can you just tell me about that? What was your mentality going into the par 3s and how you tackled the wins over there?
Yeah, I felt like I definitely stole some shots there on the par 3s today. Like you said, you do have to take advantage of the par 5s out here. Most of them are reachable, so you definitely got to do your best to take advantage of those. And today, yeah, definitely stole a couple shots there. All that's going through my head is just trying to execute, and like it all really depends on the pin location and setup. Like number 4 is a good example. The tee box was up today, and it's a challenging pin, but I put myself in a good spot there under the hole, and then. Number 6, we got the wind right, and I was able to, our goal there was just challenging the top of the slope, and it's exactly what we did, and it stayed up there on top and made a nice putt. Number 12 hit a good shot and doesn't hit the green. That happens out here. And then 16, we had a good wind direction, and the pin was, down low, which made that hole significantly easier, and was just able to hit a nice shot in there.
Dan?
Scottie, through this long stretch of golf, one thing that sort of jumps out to me is the distance control over your irons seems really impressive compared to a lot of players. Can you talk about, from a practice routine, what do you do within that environment to really, is that a big part of your routine?
It is a big part of my routine. I usually will get my fundamentals out of the way at the beginning of the practice session, and then as the session continues, it all goes into hitting shots and controlling distances. And that's when I'm hitting the ball well. That's typically exactly how we practice. Check the fundamentals, and then get into hitting shots and kind of having fun with the practice and hitting different distances with different clubs and stuff like that.
Doug,
what were the clubs on the 3 par 3s you birdied?
I hit an 8-iron on every par 3 today. I think
it's easy.
Yeah, I hit an 8-iron on 4, 6, 12, and 16. Yeah, they're all 8-irons.
And then, secondly, when you were in Butler Cabin getting ready to do your interview, you said you were checking scores. Why?
I was bored. I was waiting, and so I had my phone there, and I was like, I didn't really have any text messages. I think I had one from Meredith, and I figured I would just call her when I leave instead. And so, checked scores, checked how Sam was playing, and then that was it. I was just buying some time, just sitting there, and instead of listening to Scott and Curtis, I just check some scores.
I don't blame you.
Adam?
Scottie, I just wanted to get some of your thoughts of being at your first Champions Dinner where you weren't the host, and what would you say was the best story you heard that night?
There were some really good stories told. I love Jackie Berg stories. We lost Jackie in the last year, and so Ben said some nice things about Jackie and told a couple stories. And we always got the chance to go visit with Jackie when I was in college, and he was a treat to listen to. He was just a stubborn, tough person. He was just, you could tell why he was such a good golfer, because he was just he was so to the point, didn't mess around, and he was just I think that's what I really admired about him, is you could still see it when he was, when we were going to visit him, he probably was, 95 years old almost. And he's still with it, still going to the golf course every day. He still cares about his game. He still cares about our games, and he gave us great advice. And it was really cool getting to hear some stories. And yeah, it was different. I had to find my seat. That's always interesting, finding your seat there.
So what next to?
Well, I asked Zach if I could sit by him, because him and Jordan usually sit together, and I figured if I asked Jordan to sit by him, he'd mess with me somehow. But Zach, I felt like I could rely on a bit more. So when we were walking in, I was like, "Hey Zach, can I sit next to you?" Felt like I was back in middle school or something like that. Made me sweat a little bit.
Do you have is there a piece of advice from Jackie that's stuck with you?
The things that struck me the most about Jackie was just how to the point he was, and he didn't mess around. And so when he told you something, he really, really meant it. And one of the things that stuck out to me, which kind of holds true, is he taught us how to club into greens. And he said, whatever you would bet, all the money in your wallet, that club that you're for sure going to carry the green with, whatever no matter what happens, no matter the wind gusts, whatever it is, you're going to airmail that green. You take 2 off that, and that's what you should hit. And it was that simple to him. And we just sit there, and I was like, we went out to the golf course the next day, and I'm kind of looking at it, and I was like, oh, that actually kind of makes sense. And yeah, that one always stuck with me just because I thought it was so funny. I mean, because, they grew up, and when he was playing, they didn't have yardage books. They didn't have rangefinder, stuff like that. And so he had to learn how to do it with his eyes, and that was the best way for him to judge it.
Alan?
Hey, Scottie. It seemed on 15 green, right before Rory was about to address, I think it was his par putt, you guys had a bit of a conversation. Did his ball move there?
Yeah, just barely. It was pretty obvious he didn't cause it to move, and he hadn't marked the ball yet, so just tapped it in.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Unrelated follow-up.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I was just curious. In optimal score, I know today was tough. Optimal scoring conditions, what do you think is sort of a low number that you or a player of your caliber could post out here?
You're saying what is the lowest? I mean, I'm not really sure. I mean, around this place, it really depends on how they set the course up. It really depends on the pin locations. Like, you look at a hole like 16, where the pin was today, I wouldn't say it's an overly challenging hole, but if they put the pin in the front right, it's an extremely challenging hole. And that's just based purely on pin position. And so really it's up to them and how they want to set up the golf course. And, there's a lot of low spots on the green and there's a lot of high spots as well. So if they want to put them in all the high spots that day, then it's going to be pretty dang challenging. But if they decide to put them in the low spots and there's not too much wind, then you could see some fairly low scores.
How low?
I don't like to try and limit ourselves out here, swing for the fences. We'll see.
Thank you, Scottie, and best of luck the rest of the tournament.
All right. Thanks, y'all.